This is the introduction part 2 of Anti-Oedipus, written by Mark Seam. In reading this, the quote that spoke to me directly was, "To put it simply, as does Miller, everybody becomes a healer the moment he forgets about himself." And Miller continues, "Reality is here and now and everywhere, gleaming through every reflection that meets the eye. Everybody is neurotic down to the last man and woman, the healer or the analyst if you like, or only super neurotic. To be cured, we must rise from our graves and throw off the cerements of dead. Nobody can do it for another. It is a private affair which must be done collectively." Okay, with that, let's get into the rest of the reading. Psychoanalysis and collectivity. To be anti-Oedipal is to be anti-ego as well as anti-homo, willfully attacking all reductive and psychoanalytic and political analysis that remain caught within the sphere of totality and unity, in order to free the multiplicity of desire from the deadly neurotic and Oedipal yoke. For Oedipus is a mere psychoanalytic construct. Deluze and Guattari explain, Oedipus is the figurehead of imperialism, colonization pursued by other means. It is the interior colony, and we shall see that here at home it is our intimate colonial education. This internalization of man by man, this Oedipalization, creates a new meaning for suffering, internal suffering, and a new tone for life, the depressive tone. Now, depression does not come about one fine day. Anti-Oedipus goes on, nor does Oedipus appear on the first day of the family and feel secure in remaining there. Depression and Oedipus are agencies of the state, agencies of paranoia, agencies of power. Long before being delegated to the family, Oedipus is the figure of power as such, just as neurosis is the result of power on individuals. Oedipus is everywhere for anti-Oedipalists. The ego, like Oedipus, is part of those things that we must dismantle through the united assault of analytical and political forces. Into the unconscious, it is what gives us faith as it robs us of power. It is what teaches us to desire our own repression. Everybody has been Oedipalized and neuroticized at home, at school, at work. Everybody wants to be a fascist. Deleuze and Guattari want to know how these beliefs succeed in taking hold of the body, thereby silencing the productive machines of the libido. They also want to know how the opposite situation is brought about, where a body successfully wards off the effects of power, reversing the Freudian distinction between neurosis and psychosis that measures everything. Against the former, Anti-Oedipus concludes that the neurotic is the one of whom Oedipal imprint takes, whereas the psychotic is the one incapable of being Oedipalized, even especially by psychoanalysis. The first task of the revolutionary, they add, is to learn from the psychotic how to shake off the Oedipal yoke and the effects of power in order to initiate radical politics of desire freed from beliefs. Such a politics dissolves the mystifications of power through the kindling on all levels of anti-Oedipal forces, the schizas flows, forces that escape coding. Scramble the codes and flee in all directions. Orphans, no daddy, mommy, and me. Atheists, no beliefs, and no bads, no habits, no territories. A schizoanalysis schizophrenizes in order to break the hold of power and institute research into a new collective subjectivity and a revolutionary healing of mankind. For we are sick, so sick of ourselves. It is actually not accurate to say that Deleuze and Guattari developed a schizoanalytic approach, for as they show, it has always been the work in writers like Miller or Nietzsche or Artaud. Stoned thinking based on intensively lived experiences. Pop philosophy. To put it simply, as does Miller, everybody becomes a healer the moment he forgets about himself, and Miller continues, reality is here and now and everywhere, gleaming through our every reflection that meets the eye. Everybody is a neurotic down to the last man and woman. The healer, or the analyst, if you like, is only a super neurotic. To be cured, we must rise from our graves and throw off the cerements of the dead. Nobody can do it for another. It is a private affair which must be done collectively. Once we forget about our egos, a non-neurotic form of politics becomes possible, where singularity and collectivity are no longer at odds with each other, and where collective expressions of the desires are possible. Such politics does not seek to regiment individuals according to totalitarian systems of norms, but to denormalize and de-individualize through multiplicity of new, collective arrangements against power. Its goal is the transformation of human relationships in a struggle against power, and it urges militant groups as well as lone individuals to analyze and fight against the effects of power that subjugate them. For a revolutionary group at the preconscious level remains a subjugated group, even in seizing power as long as this power itself refers to a form of force that continues to enslave and crush desire and production. A subject group, on the contrary, is a group whose libidinal investments are themselves revolutionary. It causes desire to penetrate into the social field and subordinates the socius of the forms of power to desiring production, productive of desire, and as desire that produces the subject group always invents mortal formations that exercise the effusion in it of a death instinct. It opposes real coefficients of transversality to the symbolic determinations of subjugation, coefficients without a hierarchy or a group superego. There can be no revolutionary actions. Anti-Oedipus concludes where there is a relation between groups of people and groups are relations of exclusions and segregations. Groups must multiply and connect in every new ways, freeing up territorialities for the construction of new social arrangements. Theories must therefore be conceived as a toolbox producing tools that work, or as Ivan Illich says, we must learn to construct tools for conviviality through the use of counterfoil research. When Illich speaks of convivial reconstruction, he is very close to Deleuze and Guattari's notion of desiring revolution. Like Deleuze and Guattari, Illich also calls for a radical reversal of the relationships between individuals and the tools of or machines. This reversal would permit the evolution of a lifestyle and of a political system which gives priority to the protection, the maximum use, and the enjoyment of one resource that is almost equally distributed among all people: personal energy under personal control. All three authors agree that such a reversal must be governed by collective political process and not by professionals and experts. The ultimate answer to neurotic dependencies on professionals is mutual and self-care. Freed from a psychoanalytic framework, the political group or collective cannot, however, push aside the problem of desire, nor can it leave desire in the hands of new experts. It must analyze the function of desire in itself and in groups which it is involved. What is the function of desire, Anti-Oedipus asks, if not for one of making connections? For to be bogged down in arrangements from which escape is possible is to be neurotic, seeing an irresolvable crisis where alternatives in fact exist. And as Deleuze and Guattari comment, perhaps it will be discovered that only incurable is the neurotic. We defend so cautiously against our egoically limited experiences, states Lang in The Politics of Experience, that it is not surprising to see people grow defensive and panic in the idea of experiencing ego loss through the use of drugs or collective experience. But there is nothing pathological about ego loss. Lang adds quite the contrary. Ego loss is the experience of all mankind, of the primal man, of Adam, and perhaps even a journey further into the being of animals, vegetables, and minerals. No age, Lang concludes, has so lost touch with its healing process as has ours. Deleuze and Guattari's schizoanalytic approach serves to begin such a healing process. It's a major task to destroy the Oedipalized and neuroticized individual dependencies through the forging of a collective subjectivity, a non-fascist subject. Anti-Oedipus is an individual or a group that no longer functions in the terms of beliefs that come to redeem mankind. As Nietzsche first saw, only the ideals that weighed it down, but also from that which was bound to grow out of it, the great nausea, the will to nothingness, nihilism, the bell-stroke of noon, and the great decision that liberates the will again and restores its goal to the earth and hope to man. This antichrist, anti-nihilist, he must come one day. Unlike Nietzsche, anti-nihilist, however, Deleuze and Guattari's Anti-Oedipus is not alone. Anti-Oedipus is not the superhuman, it is not the transcendent. Where Nietzsche grows progressively more isolated to the point of madness, Deleuze and Guattari call for actions and passions of a collective nature, here and now. Madness is a radical break from power in the form of disconnection. Militancy in Deleuze and Guattari's framework would learn from madness, but then move beyond it, beyond disconnections and deterritorializations to even new connections. A politics of desire would see loneliness and depression as the first things to go. Such is the anti-Oedipal strategy. If man is connected to the machines of the universe, if he is in tune with his desires, if he is anchored, he ceases to worry about the fitness of things, about the behavior of his fellow man, about right, wrong, and justice, and in his roots are in the currents of life. He will flow on the surface like a lotus, and he will blossom and give forth fruit. The life that's in him will manifest itself in growth, and growth is an endless, eternal process. The process is everything. It is this process of desiring production that Anti-Oedipus sets out to analyze. For if desire is repressed in society, Deleuze and Guattari state that it is hardly because it is desire for the mother or for the death of the father. On the contrary, desire becomes that only because it is repressed. It takes that mask on under the reign of repression that models the mask for it and plasters it on its face. The real danger is elsewhere. If desire is repressed, it is because every position of desire, no matter how small, is capable of calling into question the established order of society. Not that desire is asocial, on the contrary, but it is explosive. There is no desiring machine capable of being assembled without disassembling entire social sectors. Deleuze and Guattari conclude that desire, any desiring machine, always a combination of various elements and forces of all types, hence the need to listen not only to revolutionaries, but also to those who know how to truly object. Revolutionaries, artists, and seers, and content to be objective, merely objective. They know that desire clasps life in its powerfully productive embraces and produces in a way all the more intense because it has few needs. And never mind those who believe that this is very easy to say, or is the sort of idea found in books.